We instantly improved our CPU temperatures with 30 minutes of work using one of these. This is the contact frame from Thermal Grizzly, and today we're going over what it does, how to install it, and most importantly, what sort of benefits can you potentially see. The whole point of a contact frame is to replace the integrated loading mechanism included with your motherboard. Now, these potentially can warp your CPU, reducing cooling performance because it decreases the contact between your CPU's integrated heat spreader and the base of your cooler. And this is where the contact frame comes in, as it does a much better job of evenly distributing the pressure across your processor, therefore preventing these problems. But one thing I do have to note, if you do install one of these, you will most likely void your motherboard's warranty, so just make sure you know that before getting into this. But to even get to the contact frame, we've got to tear down our PC, which could potentially be a long endeavour. I know at the start of the video I said it only took about 30 minutes. That's if you're not recording it. It does take much longer if you're doing that. However, we need to remove the CPU cooler and the graphics card, and we may as well give this PC a clean while we're at it because it's kind of dusty. I've been doing a bit of DIY recently. That's why it's as dusty as it is, just yeah, believe me on that one. And to get rid of the thermal paste, Thermal Grizzly sent out their cleaning wipes. 2 are included. One does a great job of removing the old thermal paste, while the other cleans up the residue. Oh, and also don't forget to clean off your CPU. You don't want thermal paste all over the place while you're messing around the CPU socket. It just makes an absolute mess of things. Clean your CPU now. And speaking of which, while you're installing the contact frame, leave your processor installed in the socket. This is purely down to just protecting it, because there are thousands of delicate pins in here, and if you bend one, you're most likely going to need a new motherboard, unless if you've got the hands of a brain surgeon, where you could potentially bend one of these pins back. And if you break one of these pins, you've most likely got a dead motherboard on your hands. To remove the included integrated loading mechanism is pretty easy. There's just some hex bolts here. Thermal Grizzly include an Allen wrench, or an Allen key as we like to call it here in the UK, and you can just remove these pretty easy. There's no specific order in which way to do it. Oh, also, probably a bit late to mention this, but while you're doing this, make sure it's on an anti-static workbench. The motherboard box does a pretty decent job of this. Now it's time to install the contact frame, and it's not a particularly hard endeavour, I'd like to say. All you need to do is put it over your CPU and screw down the included hex bolts with the smaller Allen key. Yet, I cannot stress this enough, make sure you screw this down in a crisscross pattern. This is to evenly distribute the pressure across the processor, as you're going to want this, because if you don't do this properly, you might run into some stability problems in Windows, or your PC might not even post, which is not very fun because you've got to take everything out again just to reapply the pressure, which is obviously not very fun at all. But tighten these bolts by hand. You don't need any special tooling. Use the included tools with the contact frame, as these just work, and this is what Thermal Grizzly recommends. But thankfully in our case, the PC booted first time and even XMP works, which is great to see. This means we can put it all back in our case, which, to be honest, from this point onwards, it's just a regular PC building experience. The CPU is going to need thermal paste, and as I don't want to change this in the near future, we've gone with Thermal Grizzly Duranote. Just like the name suggests, it's quite durable, and it will stay at its peak performance much longer than regular thermal pastes. And as this is my workstation, I don't really want to be doing maintenance on it if I don't have to. Then on top of this goes the CPU cooler, which is the Noctua NHD 15G2, which is probably the best air cooler on the market. Not sponsored by Noctua or anything, I just absolutely love this cooler. Anyways, it's got 2 fans, both of these go on. And then we can install our nice clean graphics card, and there we go. The PC is rebuilt. And also, by the way, if you want to pick up any of the parts used in today's video, there will be linked below with my Amazon affiliate links. I do make a small kickback if you purchase anything through these links, but it's at no extra cost to you, and it really does help out the channel as well. But now that we're back in Windows with the PC booting just fine with XMP enabled, and I've had a few weeks to test stability in both gaming and productivity workloads like Premiere Pro, Lightroom Classic, and Photoshop, and there's been absolutely zero issues stability wise, which is all well and good, especially as it was stable before. But what are the temperatures like? To be honest, we do see some small gains, especially while editing in Adobe Premiere Pro. Here we went down by 6 degrees C on the CPU package, which is not the biggest margin in the world, admittedly, but it's a reduction in temperature nevertheless, and this means quieter fans, which doesn't really matter because I've got Noctua, so they're going to be quiet anyway, but lower temperatures is obviously much better because the CPU can turbo a bit more, which means we could probably get a bit more performance. But these margins close up in gaming, where we see a reduction of 4 degrees C, which, yeah, is not going to make or break any sort of gaming experience, but it's still quite nice to see. But when we go to an all-core workload in Cinebench, yeah, we only see a reduction of just 3 degrees, but we do get more performance, so that's a slight win, I suppose. And then when we look at the idle temperature, it doesn't budge at all, but to be honest, this really doesn't matter because it's at 38 degrees, and yeah, you're not going to be having any problems at those temperatures. So essentially, we see CPU package temperature reductions of up to 6 degrees, which admittedly is quite a small margin, but when you're chasing the absolute best sort of performance, a contact frame does objectively reduce CPU temperatures. However though, like we saw, we did gain ever so slightly more performance in Cinebench. Will this translate to actual real world performance is another question, but yeah, I can say my PC is technically faster with the contact frame installed, but there's another slight benefit of one of these. I'm led to believe that if you install a contact frame correctly, it could also improve memory compatibility, which is something we might be looking at in the future, as I will be tuning the memory kit I've got. It's a 128 gig kit of DDR5 Pro from Crucial, which doesn't have the tightest cache latencies or the fastest speeds, so I'd like to tune this memory a bit, but I'd still like it to be stable as it's a video editing machine first, so there's a bit of a fine line we've got to walk there, but with the contact frame installed, maybe this is something we can test. But what we have tested are the temperatures, and they are objectively lower with the contact frame. But this leads me to answer the question, is a $25 contact frame worth it for your PC build, especially if you're rocking LGA 1851? If you're a power user and you want the absolute most from your 285K for instance, I would say it's probably worth it. It objectively lowers temperatures, and this could possibly allow your CPU to boost even further, increasing gaming performance and also productivity. Yeah, we can't forget the actual work. And even if you're a hardcore overclocker and you're chasing world records, you're probably going to want a contact frame. However, if you're on LGA 1700 with a Raptor Lake i7 or i9, a contact frame here will do a bit more in terms of improving cooling performance. This is because Intel sort of re-engineered the integrated loading mechanism with 1851 because the 1700 one was purely that bad and it was bending CPUs to a higher degree. So if you're rocking a Raptor Lake CPU, I'll link the LGA 1700 version of this contact frame in the description as well because they are slightly different. But back to the Core Ultra series of processors, if you're more of a casual user or if you're just a gamer, to be honest, a contact frame might not be worth it unless if you just want to install one for the love of the game. If that's the case, by all means, go for it. However, unlike LGA 1700, it's not kind of a necessity. But what is a necessity is that you check out the RTX 5070 Ti, which I've got in this PC, as we benchmarked it in a video up here. With that being said though, I'll catch you in the next one.